Welcome back to a professional match of StarCraft 2. Today it's time for a Zerg versus Protoss, a best-of-3 series, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on Hardwire. Spawning right here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, playing with the blue Zerg drones from Finland, we have the current world champion of StarCraft 2, and his name is Serral. And his opponent in the opposite corner, playing with the yellow Protoss probes, one of the Protoss legends, one of the all-time greats. We're looking at none other than Classic, and Classic, of course, is from South Korea. Alright, so recently we had a look at Serral's Zerg vs Terran when he took on both Maru and Clem. And his Zerg vs Terran is looking really good. Now we also had a look at his Zerg vs Zerg when he faced off against Rogue. And once more, his Zerg vs Zerg is looking really good. So I figured today, since he's widely considered to be the best player in the world, and since there is a series of Zerg vs Protoss available too, let us have a look at exactly where his ZVP is currently at. Now right from the get-go, I do think that this is probably gonna be an uphill battle for Classic. So don't get me wrong, Classic is genuinely one of the very best players that we've ever had in the game. He's got roughly $500,000 in earnings when it comes to tournament winnings. It's just that Serral's ZVP is ridiculously good, and Classic plays well, he's living up to his nickname. He plays a very classic style of Protoss. So he doesn't really mix it up all too often, he doesn't really go for any crazy shenanigans. He just plays straightforward macro, and I mean, not that Serral's weak against cheese, but Serral's macro is top-notch. So I've got a feeling that this is going to be a tricky one right here for Classic, but I hope he can bring it home. Because Serral, generally speaking, in ZVP doesn't really lose all too often, so we're going to find out together exactly what Classic decides to go for. Soon, we will have that cybernetic score done, so we'll see what sort of tech he wants to be playing right here in the earlier stages of the game. So what exactly makes Serral so good in this matchup? I guess it's his precision, right? So he, generally speaking, has his queens in the right spot in the early game. He makes just enough drones. He makes just enough army. It's the balance, right? Like, you have to do really good scouting to figure out exactly what it is the Protoss is going for. There's only limited amounts of information, and then you have to respond to all of that really cleanly in order to actually obtain the victory in the mid to late game stages. And Serral seems to be the best at just simply figuring out exactly what it is the Protoss is going for and then reacting perfectly. He must have basically practiced every single option that Protoss has in the early game over and over again and figured out the best response to every single one of those. So it's going to be a Stargate start, by the way. Classic does spot the little Zergling over here, okay. This is one of those little moves that Serral goes for. If he wouldn't have done that, I think the Zergling probably would have run into the base. It's a small little checkout, but certainly does help Classic out a bit here. It's going to be a Stargate. Is it going to be a Void Ray first? Yeah, it will be. Okay. So, Void Rays, of course, did get nerfed, but you can obviously still make them, right? They're 50 minerals more expensive. They take 6 seconds longer to produce. You can still, however, take your third base at like 3 minutes and 50 seconds if you execute your early game build really well. And usually this is an indicator that you want to go for that more macro-focused approach. Serral's going to scout it out, and he's going to know exactly what it is that the Protoss player goes for. So he'll probably be pretty happy because this is a big indicator that he can just play his normal, straightforward game. Alright, Oracle as a follow-up. Serral did see the Oracle as well. So we'll have to see how good his defense is going to be against that sort of thing. So as Protoss, right, because of the larva mechanic, Zerg can pump out a lot of drones in the earlier stage of the game. So as a Protoss player, if you don't do anything, you're going to go up against the Zerg with full 3-base economy very quickly. So it's your task to try and slow down the Zerg in any way that you can. Be it with, you know, dealing damage, right? Forcing out Zerglings or killing queens or whatever. It doesn't really matter, but you have to get some sort of work done. So here's the Oracle. Here's the Void Ray. Queens are already waiting at the third base, which seems to be the direction that this Oracle is going into. Let's see how much damage Classic can do. Okay, good targeting right here. Fourth Queen pops as well. One drone takes a lot of damage, and so does the Oracle. And that's what I mean. Did Serral even touch that drone? Did he even, like, move the drone there, or was he confident that it was gonna live? Most Zerg players will panic and pull the drones away, but Serral was like, nah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Queen was just about to pop. Flawless defense right here from Serral. Built a Spore Crawler right over here right now as well, so he'll be A-okay. He did go for the Overlord speed very quickly, too, to scout out exactly what the follow-up right here from Protoss is going to be. And he sees that indeed it's going to be that Templar Archives right over here, Twilight Council, as well as the Fort. So it's a Stargate opener, but now a transition towards a ground-based army here for Classic instead. Third Nexus, though, is up and running, uncontested. Serral instead opting to go for a lot of drones at home. Lair, relatively late, all things considered. I think that's about 5 minutes or so. Nothing too crazy. He'll probably go for the 4th base. Kind of already expecting the 4th base, to be honest, because he's gonna be done droning up the 3rd. Okay, there he goes. He's making a lot of roaches. Yeah, I guess once you're done making drones for now, you can go into a lot of roaches, but he's making a lot. So, he knows that its Archon drops as a follow-up. He scouted everything. I mean, maybe not the amount of gateways, but that doesn't really matter all too much. That's not gonna happen. Nah, it's not gonna happen. Nice movement right here by Classic. Keeps all of that alive easy peasy. Kills a couple of Zerglings along the way there, too. It's gonna be an infestation pit right now from Serral. Okay. So, straight into a Hive. Straight into Brute Lords. Look at the March of the Overlords. A Drop-a-Lord also coming up, actually. Interesting. He's making a lot of Overlords, actually. It could be Swarm Host play, but I haven't seen Swarm Host in forever. Usually, yeah, it is. Oh my god, okay. Interesting. So that's actually a really interesting move. The only times we really see Zerg players at the pro level play Swarm Hosts is when they're behind, and they're like, okay, I gotta get some work done, I gotta do something, right? Normally, when we see an Infestation Pit, it's not to unlock the potential to go for Swarm Hosts, but to go into a Hive instead, so you can go into Brute Lords or Vipers, or, you know, even if you really want to, Lurkers maybe, or something along those lines, but usually it's not for Swarm Hosts. So that explains why Serral is making such a large army here as well. Classic at this... Oh, don't lose that. Don't lose that. If you lose the Prison with 2 Archons, I think it's GG against Swarm Hosts. Anyways, yeah, Serral at this point is unscouted. Classic doesn't know. The Observer is just chilling there. Classic, you gotta figure out, man. Okay, if you lose the Observer... I don't like it. Okay, so wait, the Queens are gonna go into the Overlord. I think if he would have known, he probably would have maybe popped down a Robo Bay or something along those lines. It's gonna be Archon Immortal here, which is decent against Roach Ravager Swarm Host. Dude, the Queen's over here. Are we just gonna poop Queen? We're just gonna poop Creep with them. Okay. I love that little move, by the way. That's one of my absolute favorite moves since Wings of Liberty. We've never really seen it much, but you use the Overlord right there to provide a little bit of creep, and then you go from there. Anyways, where the Loko's gonna go? They're not gonna go for the army. Instead, they go into the natural. There's one pylon to power everything over here, by the way. Yeah, no, I think indeed. Yep, nope, yes, yes. Okay, no, we kill a couple probes, and then we target fire down the Nexus? Okay, Serral. You can quit showing off right now. Anyways, the Nexus goes down because Classic didn't scout what was happening. He decided to go for a 4th base and everything too. Didn't really pull the workers in time. That being said, okay, I love that little stasis ward right there from Classic. Trying to block the retreating Zerg units. Nice thinking ahead right there from the Protoss. That being said, Zerg is making a massive army. Good dropping here as well, by the way, from Classic. Classic has got a good amount of units, though. Yeah, 5 Archons, 5 Immortals. That can plow through Roach Ravager relatively easily. In the meantime, by the way, the Queens. Did the Queens just harass the probes in the main base and kill an additional 5 workers? Anyways, Protoss has to be on point right here with the defense, and honestly, I don't think he's got enough. The Swarm Hosts are joining in as well. There's only room in that prison for 2 Immortals, so yeah, not everything's gonna be able to go home. There's more units being rallied in too. Classic is bleeding out stuff. Really can't afford that, dude. Okay. Anyways, Queen drops. Are you kidding me, Serral? Serral's gotten way more aggressive over the last half year. We saw some of that at IEM Katowice at the World Championships. But ever since then, man, I don't know what he's been throwing, I don't know, on the sauna? Like, on the coals in the sauna? I don't know. Is that just a stereotype, or do they? No, I think they actually do, right? Anyways, he's been putting something in his sauna, man. Some crazy aromatics. Those oils they throw on there. It's not just the minty one anymore. No eucalyptus for Serral. He's been putting cheese on there or something. I don't know, man. But he's playing very aggressive recently. Now the natural is wide open. Lings run in. They target fire down the pylon that's powering all. Yeah, that's the one pylon to power everything. And in the darkness find them. Something like that. There's Creep Tumor over there. Queens are in the main base, still being annoying. So what exactly has been the mistake so far from Classic? Well, first off, that Oracle did nothing. Secondly, he didn't scout the Swarmhost follow-up. He lost that Observer for free. And then third, I would say he bled out a couple units too many for what seemed, you know, essentially free. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not like these Zerg units are cheap either, but they're a hell of a lot cheaper than Archon Immortal. I think he probably... I know it's hard, right? But if he kept at least some of those Archons and Immortals alive, this would have been a whole lot better for him. This is surprisingly strong. Yeah, that Void Ray. I don't know where the Void Ray went. Okay, it died. If the Void Ray was still alive, maybe this... this could be good. Serral's still pushing, by the way, at the front. Raining Biles wherever he can. Good sidestepping right there from Classic. Loses another Archon. Still, though, this army absolutely plows through straight-up Road Ravager. The problem is, the amount of workers here that those Queens and those Swarmhosts have killed, it's adding up. It's now 31 workers in total. And it's reflected here in the supply count. Only just enough for 2 bases is remaining right here for Serral. There's a Phoenix out right now. I guess that was built just to deal with the Overlord. Thing is, though, Queens can still transfuse the Overlord too, and Serral's once again pushing at the front. So, I guess that this is Serral's current playstyle. Transfuse, transfuse, transfuse. I didn't get it. Anyways, it's enough. GG. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Serral's current go-to playstyle, or at least something aggressive is his current go-to playstyle, if he gets such a clean early game, right? So, Classic didn't really deal any damage in the early game whatsoever. Serral got to do whatever he liked. He knew exactly what it was that the Protoss was going for. And because of that, I mean, he could have gone Mutas, he could have gone Nidus Worm, he could have gone like a Queen March, he could have done a bunch of different things. And I guess in that particular instance, he decided to go Swarm Hosts. Zerg in the mid-game of Zerg versus Protoss has a scary amount of options. They all take a bit of a different approach from Protoss to deal with as well, so it's hard to scout, but... yeah, Classic didn't know anything and then got caught off guard. Very pretty games, right? Very pretty games. I'm a fan of high-level StarCraft myself, and Serral seems to be the highest level StarCraft right now. Fun fact, you want to know how Zerg players deal with this probe harassment? You see how the probe is usually trying to right-click on a mineral field to try and disrupt the mining? Generally speaking, what Zerg players do these days is they have the gather command. So if you select a drone, usually in-game in the bottom right-hand corner, you have a command card. There is a gather command. The default, I think, with grid hotkeys is hotkey A. And Zerg players will set up a rapid-fire command for hotkey A. So whenever the probe is desperately right-clicking right there on the mineral field, Zerg will select the worker that needs to be mining next, then hold down, well, whatever their gather hotkey is, right? So in my case, that's A. And then you just hold down and hover over the mineral field, which makes you not be forced to just smash right-click a million times. It's a small little thing, but it actually makes the early game harassment so much more comfortable. I'm assuming that Protoss players do the same thing too with that harassment, rather than right-clicking themselves to, yeah, try and mine from one of those mineral fields. I guess what you do is just rapid fire on top of the mineral field instead. Anyways, once again, a Stargate right here from Classic. Serral already knows, by the way. So the Overlord here, peeping at the structures, sees the very first Adept. It's been chrono boosted once, and you can bet that Serral is counting chrono boost here too. Like, it's very little things, but he's certainly noticing the chrono boost, right? So there was a chrono boost on the gateway, there's a chrono boost on the Nexus. All of those little things help him figure out what exactly it is that the Protoss is going for. It doesn't sound significant, but it adds up very quickly. So second gateway unit is just about to pop. Serral's probably checking right now. No third gateway unit. Yep. And that's usually the moment that the Overlord flies in. So you want to see if there's a Stalker coming up, if it's triple Adept, and all of those little things, all of those little tells are things you can grind out over the course of like I don't know, 10,000 games. And then at some point you can figure out all of the little nuances of exactly how to play the early game. But yeah, remembering it all and then executing on it within an instant is very tricky. Alright, so. Once more, we have Void Ray into Oracle. It makes sense if you go for it on Hardwire, if you go for the Stargate opener on Hardwire, you go for it on this one too. Let's see how Serral's early game is going to be this time around. In the previous one, he didn't really lose anything. So, curious to see how this one's going to play out. Interestingly enough, this Nexus was still like 6 or 7 seconds later. I don't know if maybe Classic built an additional gateway unit. I think he built 2 Adepts in the first game too, but for some reason, the Nexus here is a bit later. Maybe he messed up somewhere. Not exactly sure. It's little things that do add up. Spore Crawler is building. It's gonna be done in time by the moment that the Oracle arrives, okay. Ah, Queens are actually out of position. Yeah, the creep is not connected yet. One drone goes down, second drone goes down. Hey, there we go. It ain't much, but it's honest work. Not really losing a lot of base health either. Classic apparently just... Yeah, he's just gonna do the exact same thing that he did in the first game. Apparently not too intimidated by Serral. I mean, he's a man with loads of StarCraft experience, so I guess that makes sense. Anyways, he's... Oh no, he's gonna do something a little different this time around. Never mind. I thought it was gonna be the Twilight Council into the Templar Archives, but instead he decides to go into Blink. Which is kind of curious. I guess Blink is good against Swarm Host play. It's good against Mutas. It's good against a couple of different things. It's not very good, though, against just straight up, like, Roach Ravager or, like, Ravager Lingbane or something along those lines. Serral doesn't know exactly what's happening. He did go Overlord speed once again, but... I don't think he scouted it out yet. No, he hasn't seen the research there, although he did see that something was researching in the fort, but I guess that's not really enough of a tell. 4th base already coming up for Classic. Alright, I like it. Classic just playing straightforward. Solid macro. Only 4 gas is taken here by the Protoss player for now, so he definitely wants to sit on a good, healthy chunk of gateway units. Serral is gonna go +1 melee and roach speed at the same time. Okay. Bailing Nest also comes up. So he could be thinking about Aspire. He could also just be thinking about Ravager Lingbane. Ravager Lingbane did get nerfed back in the day. About, I don't know, a year or 2 ago. Basically, Banelings don't deal as much damage to shields anymore as they used to. So, especially against, like, Archons and stuff, Banelings just, yeah, really don't cut it. Okay, so he goes into the main base right now. You will notice the Twilight Council research, the Chrono Boost and everything, the amount of gateways that are being added on. So now he roughly knows what he's going up against. But this is an entirely different scenario than what you see in the previous game, right? So you need to know how to react in all of those circumstances. When it comes to Classic, Classic can have a little bit more wiggle room here. He's not scouting much, though. Like, I would really like to see him scouting a little bit more. He didn't even see the lair start. He's got an observer right over here, scouting roughly what's happening. And I guess he's sort of keeping track of the Zerg, but... yeah. It seems like a waste, right? To just have the observer over here, to not use the sentry energy to try and get some work in, and, you know, scout out roughly what's happening. Anyways, I guess he wanted to be saving up some of that energy. Go for a push. Bunch of Zerglings get killed for free. Nicely done right here. There is enough corrosive balls here to go after the prism right away. Serral manages to sneak out of there. Gold base is going to be harassed. Drones will be pulled away. Careful, though. That prism is very exposed. Queens in the front. They can only transfuse on creep these days. The drones decided to go back. That's maybe a little bit much. Baneling speed is not done yet, but +1 melee is. So Zerglings and Banelings will deal additional damage. Okay, good slicing over here, though, by Classic. Slicing half of that Zerg army apart, forcing the corrosive balls to go down. Couple of sentries right there do get picked off. We didn't see any stasis wards here, which is a little shaky. At the very least, I don't think we saw any. It's Mass Stalker, though. Is Mass Stalker really that good of an idea? Nice splits right here on the Zealots. But Zerg is just making a ton of stuff. Seems to be winning the fight on the right side of the screen. Seems to be winning the fight over here in the center as well. Prism takes a lot of damage. Does live for now. Reinforcing Zerglings have arrived. Classic is sitting at 1,300 resources. Like, look at his money. If he would have actually... Yeah, if he would have actually warped that in the middle of that fight, somehow, right? I know that the Queens and the Ravagers were hunting that Prism, but... that probably would have made all the difference. Actually, oh my god, careful, careful, careful. Queens go off creep. Dude, Serral, man. That's not a misplay. Like, that is him coming in from the side on purpose with a couple of Queens off creep. It's an unexpected move. And clearly it worked. Anyways, now he's going to try and do the exact same trick that our Protoss player just went for at the back right here of the gold base of the Protoss. Luckily, though, a Void Ray is available, so Classic is going to be allowed to push this back. Classic, of course, does still have a very nice saturation, but the problem is he's only got, well, 4 gases and not really a high-tech army here whatsoever. When it comes to gateway-based armies, just good old Ling Bane is really good. Ravagers for support, some roaches in there to tank some damage. You don't need a high-tech army here for Zerg either. So Serral is more than keen to just sit on this Roach Ravager Ling Bane army for, yeah, the time being. That being said, his eco isn't that good. Normally you want to be playing this off of like 80-something workers at least. Okay, he does go up to, yeah, 69 workers right now, so that's quite nice. Warping into main base. Absolutely shut down. Easy peasy. Obviously, though, that is Protoss trading minerals for gas from the Zerg, so still a nice move for classical things considered, but not the damage he was hoping for. Gotta be careful, by the way. As soon as one of those mineral fields is mined out, the probe's gonna be hit right there by the Banes. Oh, you hate to see it. You hate to see it. Anyways, Hive is coming up. Main reason for Hive is probably Zergling upgrades. We can also obviously go into Aspire here. Yeah, sure. Could even go into Ultras if you really want to. Once again, those Bingling detonations are really clean. Most of the time, Protosses don't really look at their Zealot run-bys very much. But you kind of have to. Like, against really good players, I think you kind of have to. You have to babysit those Zealot run-bys too. It's very easy to just shift-click them, but... Anyways, while Zerg is transitioning towards flying units, Protoss right now is going into a Robo Bay. Disruptors are obviously a good choice, but Ling Bane is... Oh god. Okay. Couple of... hold up, let me back off for just a second. Couple of Banelings right there managed to sneak in. Oh, they just went around? Oh my god. There's actually a huge black spot right over there in the vision of the Protoss player. Okay, that's rough. Losing a bunch of workers like that is not ideal. So, there's another Robo Bay or a Robo Facility coming up together with that Robo Bay too. Normally we see these Zealots dealing a bit more damage than they are. Yeah, look at that. Wow, Zerg actually getting a cost-efficient trade so far in this series, or in this game at least. It's gonna be Disruptors here. Ling Bane is already pretty good against Disruptors. Hive at this point is done, so Adrenal Glands is researching here. That's gonna give those Zerglings an additional roughly 40% attack speed. So when they are fighting, they're gonna deal so much more damage. Probes in the top right-hand corner completely abandoned. So Protoss is, yeah, gonna lose those. And he's now just, okay, right-clicking that Nexus. A couple of Zerglings will have to pay for this as well, but since there's no splash damage in this Protoss army, Zerg doesn't really care. Like, Disruptors are coming up, but I don't know if Disruptors are really ideal. Something like Storm might be a little bit better, maybe some Archons in the mix. Immortals added in would not be bad either, but I really don't like the idea of sitting on just Stalkers and Zealots at the 12-minute mark. There's a Disruptor finally coming up. Serral going Greater Spire, by the way. He is kind of stuck here in the top right-hand corner, but Lings are coming in with the reinforcement too. A couple of them are going to try and run around. These are now Zerglings with Adrenal Glands in 6 seconds. Suddenly they find themselves with additional teeth. I don't really know exactly how it works, but suddenly they deal more damage. Good dodging right there. Good target firing as well with the Zerglings. Oh my god. Yeah, watching Serral play almost feels unfair. Let me put it like this. I don't think Zerg is overpowered, But as long as Serral is playing this game, we will definitely not see any Zerg buffs.